What if the most powerful forces in America were never elected? They don't wear uniforms. They don't run for office. Yet they shape what you buy, what you see, and how you live every single day. Today's giant corporations feel unstoppable, but they didn't start that way. To understand how they came to dominate America, we have to go back, not to Wall Street, but to sailing ships, royal charters, and a country that once feared corporate power. But it wasn't always this way. Let's rewind the clock and uncover the incredible story of the rise of corporate power in America. Our story begins not with skyscrapers, but with sailing ships. In the colonial era, corporations were rare. They were special charters granted by the king for specific public projects, like building a canal or founding a colony. Think of the Virginia Company, which established Jamestown. These early corporations had strict limits. They had a set purpose and a limited lifespan. Once the project was done, the corporation often dissolved. The idea of a corporation existing just to make money forever was completely foreign. They were seen as tools for the public good, not private empires. Then came the American Revolution. The new nation was wary of concentrated power, whether from a king or a company. For decades, state governments kept a tight leash on corporations. Getting a corporate charter was a difficult political process, and they came with all sorts of strings attached. Your charter might say you can only operate in one state, or that you can't own stock in other companies. The public was deeply suspicious of them, fearing they would become a new form of aristocracy. But the 19th century brought a tidal wave of change, the Industrial Revolution. Railroads, factories, and the telegraph were transforming the country, and these massive projects required massive amounts of capital, more than any single person could provide. This was the moment corporations had been waiting for. States, eager to attract investment and development, began to compete with each other to offer more and more lenient chartering laws. States like New Jersey and Delaware became famous as charter mills, where it was incredibly easy to set up a corporation with very few restrictions. Suddenly, corporations weren't just for public works anymore. They were for any business venture imaginable. This shift set the stage for the Gilded Age, the late 1800s. This was the era of the robber barons, names you still know today, like Rockefeller, Carnegie, and Morgan. These weren't just businessmen, they were industrial titans who built empires. John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil, for example, used ruthless tactics to swallow up competitors, eventually controlling over 90% of the oil refining in the country. They formed trusts and monopolies that dominated entire industries, from steel and railroads to sugar and tobacco. They wielded immense economic and political power, often with little regard for workers or consumers. This led to massive fortunes for a few, but also to brutal working conditions, low wages, and sky-high prices for everyone else. Public outrage began to boil over. People saw these giant trusts as a threat to democracy itself. This backlash gave rise to the Progressive Era, a period of intense social and political reform. The government finally decided to step in. In 1890, Congress passed the Sherman Antitrust Act, the first federal law designed to break up monopolies. It was a landmark piece of legislation, though it was weak at first. It wasn't until presidents like Theodore Roosevelt, the famous trust buster, came along that the law was used with real force. Roosevelt's administration took on giants like Standard Oil and the Northern Securities Railroad Trust, arguing in court that they were stifling competition and harming the public. In 1911, the Supreme Court famously ordered the breakup of Standard Oil into dozens of smaller companies. It was a clear message: no corporation was too big to be held accountable. The 20th century saw this tug-of-war continue. After the stock market crash of 1929 and the Great Depression, public trust in big business hit an all-time low. This led to the New Deal, which created a whole new layer of regulation. The SEC was formed to regulate the stock market, new laws protected workers' rights to unionize, and banking was heavily reformed. For several decades, from the 1940s to the 1970s, a sort of balance was struck. Corporations were still powerful, but they operated within a stronger framework of government oversight and strong labor unions. This period saw the rise of the American middle class and a more widely shared prosperity. But starting in the 1970s and 80s, the pendulum began to swing back. A new economic philosophy took hold, one that championed deregulation, free markets, and shareholder value above all else. The idea was that what was good for the corporation's bottom line was good for everyone. Regulations were rolled back, taxes on corporations were cut, and unions began to decline in power. This era also saw a series of Supreme Court decisions that dramatically expanded corporate power. Perhaps the most significant was the 1978 Bellotti decision, which granted corporations free speech rights under the First Amendment, allowing them to spend money to influence political campaigns. This was later supercharged by the 2010 Citizens United ruling, which opened the floodgates for corporate money in politics. This brings us to today. We live in an age of globalization and technological revolution, where corporations have become larger and more influential than ever before. Tech giants have a reach that Rockefeller could only have dreamed of, connecting and influencing billions of people around the globe. Their market caps are larger than the GDP of many countries. The debate over their power is more heated than ever. We're asking big questions. How do we regulate companies that operate across borders? What are their responsibilities when it comes to data privacy, misinformation, and their impact on our society and democracy? The history of corporate power in America is a cycle of growth, excess, and reform. It's a constant negotiation between the drive for profit and the needs of the public. From the King's Charters to the digital age, each era has faced its own challenges in defining the role of the corporation in society. Understanding this history is crucial because the same questions our ancestors wrestled with are the ones we face today. What is the proper balance between private enterprise and public good? That's a question we all have a stake in answering. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey through history interesting, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the forces that shape our world. See you next time.